Welcome to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. On today's podcast, free agency has begun in the NBA. There's been trades, there's been signings, there's been massive contracts of over $300 million. Cavs have done nothing yet. A lot of guys have gone off the board that we've talked about in the last few months. Is this a disaster for the Cavs already on the second day of July? We'll get into that and a whole lot more on this edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the BetRivers Network.
Folks, if you're not using the BetRivers app, you're lost in the soup right now. I put out another parlay today, hopefully for a big winner for all of you. And it's very easy to use, and you can bet on it pretty much anything. So get in the mix today. If you're not using the BetRivers app, now's your time to get started. Absolutely. We'd like to see the Cavs get started with this offseason as well. And a lot of people are up in arms. And surprisingly, I'm not one of them. I have been someone that has loudly ripped the Cavaliers a lot over the last couple of years. And I've been frustrated by the lack of progress of some of the players on the team. I've been frustrated by, not making the change at head coach after the previous season. I've been frustrated this year because I felt like it was time to change GMs with Kobe Altman. I've been frustrated at the team because they seem to, at least publicly, make such a big deal of how many wins they have in the regular season, when it's just so clear that the regular season doesn't matter and is very much a non-factor in terms of success in the postseason. It's not an indicator necessarily. And I have said last year, I was like, I'm not watching the regular season unless they make changes. And for the last couple of months, especially after the season ended, we've all been screaming and yelling, trade Darius, trade Jarrett Allen, mix the team up, bring new guys in. And I don't know what it was. I don't know what really made me change my mind, because a lot of that, I still feel the same way. They should have fired JB a while ago. They clearly needed a new head coach. I am unconvinced that Kobe Altman is the right guy to man this ship. I'm not going to say he's done a terrible job, because he hasn't done a terrible job, but he's not done a great job. But, in the NFL, I always talk about the reality is that most coaches and most GM, and this is really the truth, I would bet, in any sport. It's certainly in baseball. I bet it is in hockey. I don't know hockey well enough to know this, but I bet it's true there too. I bet it's true in soccer and every other sport. If you're fair, but we're all emotional about our teams. We don't see things clearly. When you're emotional, you're usually not making a rational decision, right? When most people get into fights, they're not being rational, they're not being calm, they're not being cool and collected. They're being irrational. And that's when dumb things happen, right? So it's hard to look at our team or our competitors fairly. Many of us don't have the knowledge to even know what we're looking at. But even if we do, it's hard. There's emotions involved when you love something, whether it's your spouse, your kid, your team, your pet, whatever. When emotions involved, if you love something or you hate something, you're not going to judge it fairly. It's impossible. And that's why it's hard to find unbiased people when it comes to anything. Sports, politics, Little League. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's hard to find people that honestly look at something and say, okay, emotions are out of it, and let me give you the reality here. That's hard. And so we've all been very emotional about the Cavs. And I don't know what happened to me in the last week that I don't know. I think I've just seen the light, if you will, when it comes to the Cavaliers. And it's so clear to me that the best course of action for this team is most likely to bring for the core of the team, not to leave it exactly the same from 1 to 15, but that the top 4 players on this team, unless an opportunity provides itself from the Cavs to improve their top 4, that just doesn't seem realistic to me right now, but maybe it's possible, then I don't think they should mess with the top 4. And here's why. First of all, let's start with Darius Garland, because he's the guy that a lot of people want to see traded. And I killed Darius last year, and I've been highly critical of his maturity, his ability to be a consistent star. I mean, last year he flat out was lousy when he came back from injury. He rarely made big shots. Turnovers were a problem. But the basketball IQ was a question. The maturity was a question. There's a lot to not like about what we all saw with Darius Garland last year. But therein lies the problem, is that everybody else in the NBA saw that too. And sometimes we get, as I said, emotional and so caught up in trade Darius. Well, I can't trade a guy who's been an all-star. There's no debate whether Darius Garland is capable of being an all-star because he's already been an all-star. He's not old. He hasn't had a devastating injury that should change the course of his career. So what's changed? The pieces around him, okay. He dealt with injury last year, okay. Maybe I'd say maybe his confidence level, because I don't know for sure. It seemed like his confidence level changed last year, but I'm not him. I don't know with certainty about that. But every team in the NBA saw what he did. And if the Cavs are out there shopping him around, well, why would anybody give up a premium price for Darius Garland? Why would somebody give up a good wing player for a 13th right now, a guy who was like a middle-of-the-road point guard in the league? Nobody's going to do that, especially when he's got a huge contract. So the best move with Darius Garland, unless somebody gives you an offer you can't refuse, which seems unlikely, is that he stays here and that the new head coach of the Cavaliers and his staff are able to turn him back to the player he was a few years ago when he became an all-star, and maybe even better. Maybe, I'm thinking, oh, well, that's the best he could be, right? That he was an all-star, but maybe he can be even better than that. Maybe there's even a higher ceiling for him. I don't know. But the Cavs have decided that Kenny Atkinson was the best guy available to help this team win a championship. If the Cavs didn't think that Kenny Atkinson gave them the best chance to win a championship, then the process was wrong. Time will tell if they're right. You may think they're wrong. I may think they're wrong. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't think that. Kenny Atkinson seems like a fine choice. But if you think that Kenny Atkinson can lead you to a title, then you have to believe he can get the best out of Darius Garland. And if he can get the best out of Darius Garland, well, then maybe he and his staff can get the best out of the rest of the guys too. Jarrett Allen has played his best basketball as a Cavalier and seems to get at least a tiny bit better every year. Now, again, he may not be a great fit with Mobley, certainly if neither one of them can become three-point shooters, then yeah, it might not fit. But how do I know that can't happen? We've seen other big guys later in their careers Mikey McNuggets mentioned it on UCSS yesterday with Robin Lopez. We've seen big guys become three-point shooters later in their careers. Maybe Kenny Atkinson and the staff can do that. I'm not asking for him to turn scrubs into stars. I'm asking him for him to turn all-stars and borderline all-stars to better players. I'm asking him to turn very good players into all-stars and all-stars into superstars. I don't know if it's possible. Can Evan Mobley, he's not even an all-star. Evan Mobley's a very good player. When the Cavs drafted him, they believed he was going to be a superstar. Now, that may never happen, but we haven't had a chance. We don't know yet. It's not too late. And maybe this new coaching staff can get Evan Mobley to the heights that we can't imagine right now. And if he can't, so be it. But I think that the best chance for this team to get to their goals and the goals that we have for them, which is winning a championship, is by taking what you already have at the top and getting it as good as you possibly can. And then beyond that, players 5 through 15, that's where you have to make changes. That's where they have to get it right and find the right pieces around them. Important pieces. Especially players 5 through, 10, whatever that is. And obviously you have some of those guys here already, but you got to move around some of those spots. But trading Darius Garland for pennies on the dollar or trading Jarrett Allen for a different part that's not as good, but maybe it's going to fit better. Well, how about first we give Kenny Atkinson a chance to win with what you have? Because what the Cavs have is very talented. I think we get so frustrated at times, myself included, that we forget that there is a lot of talent here. Are the Cavs a better team today than the Celtics? Of course not. Are they a better team today than the Knicks? I doubt it. The Knicks have gotten better, although they did lose Hartenstein yesterday. But still, the Knicks have gotten better. We know Milwaukee with Giannis is a champion, always a championship contender. Philadelphia with Embiid, dangerous. Orlando's a young team getting better. I get it. The Cavs are a very talented team. They may never get over the hump of some of those best teams. But if Evan Mobley goes from being a good NBA player to becoming a star or even a superstar, we've seen crazier things. We've seen guys take longer to develop. It has happened. This would not be a miracle if all of a sudden Evan Mobley reached significantly higher heights as a player. He's only played 3 seasons in the NBA. Giannis, I'm not saying he's going to be Giannis. I promise you. But Giannis wasn't an all-star into his 4th year in the league. Giannis's rookie season, he averaged 7 points and 4.5 rebounds. Year 2, 13 and 7. Year 3, 17 and 8. Now, Evan Mobley has been a little more steady with the numbers, where Giannis has gotten a little better each year. But it wasn't till age 22 in his 4th year, which is where Evan Mobley is, that he reached another level and averaged 23 and 9. I thought I can't imagine him averaging 23 and 9 right now, but I don't think that's impossible. I thought he showed signs as an improved passer at the end of the year against Boston. Yes, there's got to be some more aggressive play, but come on, nobody saw Giannis coming. Nobody. If they had, he wouldn't have been the 15th pick, and he took time, and maybe and I'm not asking him to be Giannis. I'm saying it's not crazy that he could become an all-star caliber player. He's already got it on the defensive end, and I think that's what you got to do. Now, you got to find the right pieces and change some of the pieces to go around these guys. But I think I think in the situation they're in, with most of the good free agents off the board, no cap space right now, find some different pieces to go around these four guys and give Kenny Atkinson at least 1 year to see how good they can get him. Because the reality is that every year during this recent regime, the Cavs have gotten better. That's just a fact. Maybe not. It hasn't been as a high shoot-up improvement as we expected when they got Donovan Mitchell, but they've gotten better. They haven't gone backwards as a team. Some players have individually, and that's an issue that's got to change immediately. One thing holding up some progress here is that as of this morning, neither Donovan Mitchell or Evan Mobley have signed extensions. Those things are both a little head-scratching. It's kind of holding their mid-level exception in check because they can't really use it at least to its max till they know how much they're paying both Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley in these extensions. And, since we don't know for sure if they're going to happen at all, even though it seems likely that both will, it's still a little nerve-wracking. But as of this morning, they haven't. They're holding things up a little bit. But in the end, there'll be some guys that will be able to help them in free agency, smaller pieces, bench pieces. But these are important because you do have 4 really good starters, even though we've been frustrated by some of their individual progress. By the way, the new head coach of the Cavs, Kenny Atkinson, sat down with my buddy Mikey McNuggets from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and we'll have an interview with him today and on tomorrow's podcast. I'll talk about that a little bit. His interview with Kenny Atkinson. He had about 5 minutes to talk with Kenny Atkinson at the press conference yesterday. All right, Guardians start a series, a homestand here. Coming off their worst weekend of the year. They played terribly against the Royals over the weekend. 2 weeks before the All-Star break, Guardians have a very favorable schedule before the All-Star break. But for whatever reason, they haven't played great against some bad teams. Lost before losing that series to Kansas City. The White Sox were one of their only 2 lost series in the last 2 months. So they'll play the White Sox at home next 3 days. Carrasco flexing tonight. Tomorrow, I'm excited. Gavin Williams makes his 2024 debut against Eric Fetty. So I'm excited to see what he looks like. And then on the 4th of July, Guardians play a day game. Ben Lively against Drew Thorpe before the Giants come to town. And then the Guardians go on one more road trip to Detroit and Tampa before the All-Star break. That's going to do it for me today. Thanks to everybody for joining me. Thanks to Monzo for producing. Thanks to all of you for listening and watching. I'll be back as always next time. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up for the like, and keep it going. No live show on Thursday this week because of 4th of July. I'll be back with a live show next week. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. See you, everybody.